I will just record it. So preface, we must know the present need of human society. And what is that need? Human society is no longer bounded by geographical limits to particular countries or communities. Human society is broader than in the Middle Ages, and the world tendency is towards one state or one human society. The ideals of spiritual communism, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, are based more or less on the oneness of the human society, nay, of the entire energy of living beings. So here it's mentioned about the aspect of um, the spiritual communism. So communism means what? Everything belongs to the state, and like all property that exists belongs to the state. So spiritual communism means everything that exists belongs to the Supreme Lord. So that's the spiritual communism, right? So the need is felt by great thinkers to make this a successful ideology. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need in human society. It brings, therefore, with an aphorism, it begins, therefore, with an aphorism of Vedanta philosophy, Janma Adyasya Yataha, to establish the ideal of a common cause. Human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large scale quarrels even over less important issues. There is a need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of entire human society. So this is really very powerful statement that Srila Prabhupada is making here, that we have made so much of technological advancements, but then there is some problem somewhere. It's all not going this right way. So this can be solved. This gap can be solved by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, and then it can re-spiritualize the entire human society. Right? Srimad Bhagavatam should be introduced also in the schools and colleges, for it is recommended by the great student devotee Prahlad Maharaj in order to change the demoniac face of society. So this is a statement that is made by Prahlad. So that is Kaumāramacharet prajño dharman bhagavataniha durlabam manusham janma tadapyadruvamartadam. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in godless civilization. There is, this basically, this Kaumāramacharet prajño, it says, Kaumara means like it's a very young age, almost at the age of 5. Kaumāramacharet prajño dharman bhagavataniha. So durlabam manusham janma. We have got this rare human form of body, and then we should use this, adruvam artadam. So this has this human form of life has a meaning. In this human form of life, we can actually understand about God. Otherwise, other needs, ahara, nidra, bhaya, maitunam cha samanyam etat pashubir narana dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubir samana. So that means this basic needs of eating, sleeping, having relation with the opposite sex, and then defending. So these 4 things are common to both humans and animals. So we are also eating, animals also eating. All the other things are common. Only thing is the higher intelligence that we have got, with which we can understand what is spirit, what is matter, what is spiritual, who is God, and how can I serve him, and things like that. This an animal cannot understand. Right? So dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho. The dharma, or the religious principles, is the differentiating factor between the animals and human beings. Dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubir samana. So in that way, the human life is artadam. It is having some meaning. And what is the meaning? So dharma and bhagavataniha. So we can actually understand this Bhagavat dharma, and then we can actually practice this. Otherwise, the rare human form of life will be we will lose it, right? So we will lose it, and we will not achieve the necessary perfection that we are supposed to get. Disparity in human society is due to lack of principles in a godless civilization. So all this disparities, that means all this variations, or all this different kinds of differences amongst people and things like that, it is because of like godless civilization, lack of principles in godless civilization. There is God or the Almighty One from whom everything emanates. No, like Janma Desha Yathon Vayaditaratas Chartheshwa Bhigyaswarat, by whom everything is maintained and in whom everything is merged or rest, merged to rest. Material science has tried to find the ultimate source of creation very insufficiently, but it is a fact that there is one ultimate source of everything that be. This ultimate source is explained rationally and authoritatively in the beautiful Bhagavatam or Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental science, not only for knowing the ultimate source of everything, but also for knowing our relation with Him, that is the Supreme Lord, and our duty towards perfection of the human society on the basis of perfect knowledge. It is powerful reading matter in the Sanskrit language, and it is now rendered into English elaborately, so that simply by a careful reading, one will know God perfectly well. So much so that the reader will be sufficiently educated to defend himself from the onslaught of atheists. Over and above this, the readers will be able to convert others to accepting God as a concrete principle. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the definition of the ultimate source. It is bona fide commentary on Vedanta Sutra by the same author, Srila Vyasadeva, and gradually it develops into 9 cantos up to the highest state of God realization. So this Srimad Bhagavatam is a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta Sutra is the reference point for all the spiritualists. And no, that's Vedanta, means that's the end of all the Vedas. And Bhagavatam is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So it is really the topmost of all the Vedic literatures, right? Okay. So now for where we left. Okay, highest state of God realization. The only qualification one needs to study this great book of transcendental knowledge is to proceed step by step, cautiously, and not jump forward haphazardly, as with an ordinary book. It should be gone through chapter by chapter, one after another. The reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English translations, synonyms, translations, and purports, so that one the reading matter is so arranged with the original Sanskrit text, its English transliteration, that means in English, the Sanskrit is presented in English, and synonyms and translations and purports, so that one is sure to become a God realized soul at the end of finishing the first 9 cantos. The 12th canto is, the 10th canto is distinct from the first 9 cantos because it deals directly with the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. So 10th canto is full of Krishna Leela. Right? One will be unable to capture the effects of 10th canto without going through the first 9 cantos. The book is complete in 12 cantos, each independent, but it is good for all to read them in small installments, one after another. I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, but still I am hopeful of its good reception by thinkers and leaders of the society on the strength of the following statement of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.11. Tadbhag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokamabhadyavatapi nama nyanantasya yashonkithaniyat shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though irregularly composed, is heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Okay, Som Tat Sat, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Okay, so now we will skip the forward. So this is by the publishers. They have written on the... We will get to the first chapter of the second canto of Bhagavatam. This is the first step in God realization. So first is invocation mantra, that is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this means, O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Right? So this is the meaning, and let's see the purport. Vasudevaya means to Krishna, the son of Vasudev. So Vasudev, no, Vasudev's son is called Vasudev. Kunti's son is called Kaunteya, and Pandu's son is called Pandava. So like that, this is the way of derivation of son's name from the father's name. So Vasudevaya means, the son of Vasudev is called Vasudev. So to Krishna, the son of Vasudev, since by chanting the name of Krishna, Vasudeva, one can achieve all the good results of charity, austerity, and penance. It is to be understood that by chanting of this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, the author or the speaker or any one of the readers of Srimad Bhagavatam is offering respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna means the reservoir of all pleasure, sum total of all bliss. That's the meaning of the word Krishna. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the principles of creation are described, and thus the first canto may be called creation. Similarly, in the second canto, the post-creation, cosmic manifestation is described. That is secondary creation. Sarga, the first creation is called Sarga, and the secondary creation or post-creation is called Visarga. Okay. The different planetary systems are described in the second canto as different parts of the universal body of the Lord. For this reason, the second canto may be called the cosmic manifestation. There are 10 chapters in the second canto, and in these 10 chapters, the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and the different symptoms of this purpose are narrated. The first chapter describes the glories of chanting, and it hints at the process by which the neophyte devotees may perform meditation on the universal form of the Lord. In the first verse, Sukadeva Goswami replies to the question of Maharaj Parikshit, who asked him about one's duty at the point of death. Maharaj Parikshit was glad to receive Sukadeva Goswami, and he was proud of being a descendant of Arjuna, the intimate friend of Krishna. Personally, he was very humble and meek, but he expressed his gladness that Lord Krishna was very kind to his grandfathers, the sons of Pandu, especially his own grandfather Arjuna. And because Lord Krishna was always pleased with Maharaj Parikshit's family, at the verge of Maharaj Parikshit's death, Shukadeva Goswami was sent to help him in the process of self-realization. Maharaj Parikshit was a devotee of Lord Krishna from his childhood, so he had natural affection for Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami could understand his devotion. Therefore, he welcomed the questions about the king's duty, because the king hinted that worship of Lord Krishna is the ultimate function of every living entity. Shukadeva Goswami welcomed the suggestion and said, because you have raised questions about Krishna, your question is most glorious. The translation of the first verse is as follows. Okay, the first shloka, Sri Shuka Uvacha, Viri Variyan Yeshate Prashnaha Krito Loka Hitam Nripa Atmavit Sammatam Pumsam Shrotavyadishu Yat Paraha. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, your question is glorious because it is very beneficial to all kinds of people. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing, and it is approved by all transcendentalists. Purport. Even the very question is so nice that it is the subject matter for hearing. Simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. Because Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Person, any question about him is original and perfect. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the highest perfection of life is to achieve the transcendental loving service of Krishna. Prema Pumartho Mahan, right? So, that is the thing that is mentioned here. Because questions and answers about Krishna elevates one to the transcendental position, the questions of Maharaj Parikshit about Krishna philosophy are greatly glorified. Maharaj Parikshit wanted to absorb his mind completely in Krishna, and such absorption can be affected simply by hearing about the uncommon activities of Krishna. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that simply by understanding the transcendental nature of Lord Krishna's appearance, disappearance, and activities, one can immediately return home back to Godhead and never come back to this miserable condition of material existence. It is very auspicious, therefore, to hear always about Krishna. So Maharaj Parikshit requested Shukadeva Goswami to narrate the activities of Krishna so that he could engage his mind in Krishna. The activities of Krishna are non-different from Krishna himself. As long as one is engaged in hearing such transcendental activities of Krishna, he remains aloof from the conditional life of material existence. The topics of Lord Krishna are so auspicious that they purify the speaker, the hearer, the inquirer. They are compared to the Ganges waters, which flows from the toe of Lord Krishna. Uh, Wherever the Ganges water go, they purify the land and the person who bathes in them. Similarly, Krishna Katha or topics of Krishna are so pure that wherever they are spoken, the place, the hearer, the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned become purified. Okay. So now, in between, like whenever you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box. I will try to answer it in between, or otherwise, no, towards the end, last 5-10 minutes, we will take questions. Right. So, Shrotavyadhini Rajendra Nrinam Shanti Sahasrasaha Apashyatham Atma Tattvam Griheshu Grahamedinam. Those persons who are materially engrossed, being blind to knowledge of ultimate truth, have many subject matters for hearing in human society, O Emperor. So Sukadeva Goswami is starting like this. He is telling that people who are there materially engrossed, they have many subject matters to question and hear and things like that. So purport. In the revealed scriptures, there are two nomenclatures of the householder's life. One is Grihastha and another is Grahamedi. Grihastha are those who live together with wife and children, but live transcendently for realizing the ultimate truth. The Grihamedis, however, are those who live only for the benefit of family members, extended or centralized, and thus they are envious of others. The word Medi means the word Medi indicates jealousy of others. The Grihamedis, being interested in family affairs only, are certainly envious of others. Therefore, one Grihamedi is not on good terms with another Grihamedi, and in the extended form, one community, society, or nation is not on good terms with another counterpart of selfish interest. In the age of Kali, all the householders are jealous of one another because they are blind to the knowledge of ultimate truth. They have many subject matters for hearing: politics, scientific, social, economic, and so on. But due to poor fund of knowledge, they set aside the questions of ultimate miseries of life, namely miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. So whenever we present spiritual topics, people generally ask, no, why spiritual topics? Why not other things? There are so many things that are important. So like here it is nicely mentioned that if it is so many things are important, we even go and chit chat and waste time also, but then we will not, the common people would not take up to the spiritual discussions. And if a serious spiritual discussion is held, so then people take objection in that, right? So it is because it is not it is completely against the matter of sense gratification. Spiritualism means control of senses, so that people in general actually hate sense control, right? Okay. They set aside the questions of ultimate miseries of life, namely miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease, right? So factually, human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to birth, death, old age, and disease. So in this thing, if we see, how can disease, definitely, yeah, it's a problem, so everybody wants to get rid of it. Old age is also a problem. We keep our body keeps deteriorating. And then death is also a problem. How can the birth be a problem? So birth is no happy birthday, right? So everybody celebrates birthday. So but then we see that birth means how much of pain it is. So all the mothers here, definitely you can appreciate this thing. So giving birth to a child is really very painful thing. And all of us have gone through this process of being in the womb of a mother. And it is just like this. If we are hanged from the ceiling upside down, and then you cannot move your legs, you cannot move your hands, and then you are just caught up in this one, and the worms and this ones, they go and bite the small baby within the womb of the mother, and it is actually a painful this one. So birth, death, old age, and disease, these four are Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, Dukkha, Doshanudarshanam. So Krishna mentions this as one of the signs of knowledge. A knowledgeable person means who sees Janma, Mrityu, Jara. Jara means old age, and Vyadhi. So these four things, Dukkha, Doshanudarshanam. no one who sees these four things as the source of miseries, no, he is knowledgeable person. So that's, no, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita about that. So factually, the human life is meant for making an ultimate solution to birth, death, old age, and disease. But the Grahamedis, being illusioned by the material nature, forget everything about self-realization. The ultimate solution to the problems of life is to go back home, back to Godhead, that is going back to Vaikuntha. And thus, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 8:16, the miseries of material existence, birth, death, old age, and disease are removed. Right? So if we go back to the spiritual world, then we don't need to see the womb of another mother. We don't need to be hanged, no, upside down again, no, in anybody's womb. So we can just go back to Vaikuntha and live free, right? The process of going back home, back to Godhead, is to hear about the Supreme Lord and his name, form, attributes, pastimes, paraphernalia, and variegatedness. Foolish people do not know this. They want to hear something about the name, form, etc., of everything temporary, and they do not know how to utilize this propensity of hearing for the ultimate good. Misguided as they are, they are also create some false literature about the name, form, attributes, etc., of the ultimate truth. So this is what this one. So people, like this worldly people, so they also take Bhagavad Gita. They also give some commentary on Bhagavad Gita. They also speak about Bhagavad Gita, and sometimes their speeches about Bhagavad Gita are so nice and so lucid and things like that. But then they don't know the ultimate end of it, and they will just simply spoil the lives of people. So we should read it from authorized sources. In the Gita course we saw there are 4 paramparas that are there. So we have to learn these ultimate truth from these 4 paramparas. Otherwise, we will not get the right knowledge. One should not therefore become a Grahamedi simply to exist for envying others. One should become a real householder in terms of scriptural injunctions. So we should, for everything in this life, we should consult the scriptures. That is when we will know like what is the actual thing that we need to do in our life, right? So text 3, Nidraya hiryate nattam vyavayena chavavayah diva charthe haya rajan kutumbabharanenava. The lifetime of such an envious householder, that is Grahamedi, is passed at night either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime either in making money or maintaining family members. So Bhagavatam is going to be really very straightforward. No dharma prochita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. So that's the thing. Like in the first canto itself, the Bhagavatam establishes all kinds of cheating religion is thrown away, and then it is going to hit on the right thing, and it is not going to beat around the bush. It is going to tell about the truths of the life in a very, very open form. Right? So some statements of Bhagavatam may be heavy, but then we can just absorb it, and it is for our purification. Right? The present human civilization is primarily based on the principles of sleeping and sex indulgence at night, and earning money in the day and spending the same for family maintenance. Such a form of human civilization is condemned by the Bhagavata school. Because human life is a combination of matter and spirit soul, the whole process of Vedic knowledge is directed at liberating the spirit soul from the contamination of matter. The knowledge concerning this is called Atma Tattva. So Atma Tattva means the real knowledge means to know the difference between spirit and matter, and like in that way, understand what is the duties of spirit, and then liberate the spirit from this material entanglement. So that's the Atma Tattva, or that's the spiritual understanding, right? Those men who are too materialistic are unaware of this knowledge and are more inclined to economic development for material enjoyment. Such materialistic men are called karmis, or fruitive laborers, and they are allowed regulated economic development or association of women for sex indulgence. Now, regulated means only within the marriage and not otherwise. Those who are above the karmis, that is jnanis and yogis, yogis and devotees, are strictly prohibited from sex indulgence. So, like transcendentalists, like generally they would not engage in sex indulgence, except for giving birth to children. The karmis are more or less devoid of Atma Tattva knowledge, and as such their life is spent without spiritual profit. The human life is not meant for hard labor for economic development, nor is it meant for sex indulgence like that of cats and dogs and hogs. It is especially meant for making a solution to the problems of material life and the miseries thereof. So the karmis waste their valuable human life by sleeping and sex indulgence at night, and by laboring hard in the daytime to accumulate wealth. And after doing so, they try to improve the standard of materialistic life. The materialistic way of life is described here in a nutshell, and how foolish men waste the boon of human life is described as follows. Dehapatya kalatradishva atma sainyeshu asatsvapi tesham pramatto nidanam pashyannapi na pashyati. Persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, wife, children. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. So, purport. This material world is called the world of death. No, Mrityu Loka. That means when the heavenly, from the heavens, like when the devatas see the people in this world. So we have seen in the Gita course about the time factor. So from the heavenly point of view, so the time over here is our one Uttarayana and Dakshinayana is 1 day for them, right? So no, our that means 6 months, 6 months. Our 1 year is 1 day for them, right? So now we can imagine that we are going to live for 60 years, so or 100 years. It's just like 100 days for the people in the heavenly planets. And no, from their point of view, no, it is like when we see this one Kida, like no, this in the rainy season, all this insects come. So when these insects come into the home, in the night they will throng into the homes, and then in the like morning when we see, like all of them would have would be fallen dead in this ones. So that's how the people in the heavenly planets see us. Oh, these guys, no, they are like born in Mrityu-loka. No, they are going to die. No, so like so soon they will be dying. No, that's the viewpoint the people in the heavenly planets they actually look at. And in that time, oh, these people are just running behind how to satisfy their senses, and they are not able to understand very soon the death is going to come. Their destruction is inevitable, and their death is fast approaching, right? So, purport. This material world is called the world of death. Every living being, beginning from Brahma, whose duration of life is some thousands of millions of years, down to the germ who lives for a few seconds only, is struggling for existence. Therefore, this life is a sort of fight with material nature, which imposes death upon all. In the human form of life, a living being is competent enough to come to an understanding of this great struggle for existence. But being too attached to the family members, society, country, etc., he wants to win over the invincible material nature by the aid of bodily strength, children, wife, relatives, etc. So, although he is sufficiently experienced in the matter by dint of past experience and previous examples of his deceased predecessors, so that means like we have all seen, people like take birth and people die, and many of our family members, like elders, would have also passed away. We would have seen all those things. But this is one of the things in the Yaksha Prashna, like Yudhishthir Maharaj was asked that what is the most astonishing thing that you have seen in the whole world. So, and he says that ahani ahani bhutani gachanti yamalayam. So I don't remember the second line. Basically, he says that again and again people see that people are going to Yamalayam, gachanti Yamalayam, but still they think that this will not happen to me. I am going to live very perfect. I am going to live very good, and then I am going to accumulate a lot of things, and I am going to I'm the master of everything that I possess. I'm going to be like that forever. So that's the attitude, or that's the way the material nature actually deludes a person. So here it's mentioned that we have like experience of seeing people and our own predecessors passing away. He does not see that the so-called fighting soldiers, like these children, relatives, society members, and countrymen, are all fallible in the gate struggle. Fallible means they are bound to get defeated. Infallible means like he cannot be defeated. Achyuta means like infallible. So this is all like fallible soldiers means they are all fighting with us, in the struggle for existence. And the main thing is, in the struggle for existence, one thing is guaranteed: every one of us are going to fail at some point in time. It's only a matter of when I'm going to fail, when I'm going to give up the struggle, right? So that's the point. So that's where it is mentioned that all of them know whose support we are taking. I'm living in the country, this country will protect me. I'm living in the family will protect me. I'm living in the society, this society will protect me. These are all fallible soldiers in the great struggle against material existence, right? One should examine the fact that his father or his father's father has already died, and that he himself is therefore also sure to die. And similarly, his children, who are the would-be fathers of their children, will also die in due course. No one will survive in this struggle with material nature. This history of human society definitely proves it. No, the history of the human society definitely proves it. Yet the foolish people still suggest that in the future they will be able to live perpetually with the help of material science. This poor fund of knowledge exhibited by human society is certainly misleading, and it is all due to ignoring the constitution of the living soul. This material world exists only as a dream due to our attachment to it. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. So we are just like fish out of water. No, we are put in this material world. So no, soul doesn't die, but then this material body has to die at certain point. The soul can freely move everywhere, but then this material body arrests us, and then it actually gives us only a limited movement. Even that sometimes gets paralyzed, right? So in this way, like the soul is like caught up in this jail of material nature, with this body. This body is the what is that prison shackles, we can say. That's the way, like, the soul is locked up in this material nature, right? And uh, the great ocean of material nature is tossing with the waves of time, and the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles, which appears before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. Due to a lack of knowledge of self, we become victimized by the force of ignorance, and thus spoil the valuable energy of human life in a vain search after permanent living conditions which are impossible in the material world. I think I mentioned this joke in one of the sessions, that one foreigner came to a sadhu's hermitage, and then he saw that the sadhu doesn't have any furniture. He's just having a chatai, and he's sitting there, and then he's doing his bhajan. And this foreigner asked, like, no, where are your furniture? And the sadhu asked the foreigner back, where are your furniture? And then he told that, no, my furniture is there back at my place, like I'm a foreigner. So then the sadhu says, no, I'm also foreigner. No, my furniture and everything is there in Vaikunta. I'm just spending some time here. That's all. Like, no, I'll be getting back there soon. So that's the mood and attitude we should have. The world that we live in is not permanent. No, how much ever we try, we cannot be permanently be situated here, right? So our friends, relatives, and so-called wives and children are not only fallible, but also bewildered by the outward glamour of material existence. As such, they cannot save us. Still, we think that we are safe within the orbit of family, society, or country. So all of them, like our near and dear ones, none of us can save. No, we have seen that so many times. No, sometimes children get into terminal disease, and then the parents are there right next to them, and they're trying to save them, but then no, they cannot. No, if the time has come, then he has to go. All the best of the doctors are there. No, everything is there. Like, no, everybody is trying, but then it's not possible. No, none of us can save anybody, and none of anybody can save me. No, that's not possible. So still we think that we are safe within the orbit of family, society, or country. The whole materialistic advancement of human civilization is like the decorations of a dead body. So this is mentioned that what is that? Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japas Tapas Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. That means Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya, like without the Bhagavat Bhakti, without devotion to the Lord, Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japa Tapa. No, we may do like all the nice things of good. We may have taken birth in good family, Jati Shastra. We may have learned in the Shastras, but no bhakti is there. Jati Shastra, Japa and Tapa, like all these things we may do, but then what it is like, no, what is mentioned here, decorations of dead body. Apranasya dehasya mandanam. No, this is like decorations of the dead body. And lokaranjanam, people of this world will praise that. Oh, like you have done so much of material advancement. It's so nice. No, but then it is effectively what? Apranasya dehasya mandanam, decorations of no dead body. So everyone is a dead body flapping only a few days, and yet all the energy of human life is being wasted in the decoration of this dead body. No, so it's actually, this body is going to just live for a few days, in the calculation of the eternity of millions and trillions of years. So this small life that we are living, it's just like a point. It doesn't even occupy a space of a point in the ultimate timeline. No, that's how insignificant is our life in the whole, when we compare it with the whole scale of time, right? So, but in this lifetime, if we can actually strive to understand the supreme signs of going back to the spiritual world, that is greatest advantage that is taken. But otherwise, we will just live like any other person in this world, and we will continue the cycle of birth and death. Sukadev Goswami is pointing out the duty of human being after showing the actual position of bewildered human activities. Persons who devoid of knowledge of Atma Tattva are misguided, but those who are devotees of the Lord and have perfect realization of transcendental knowledge are not bewildered. Right? So now here, it starts with therefore, tasmat, or for this reason. So now it's a very nice shloka where like Sukadeva Goswami is going to give the first instruction of what needs to be done. This life is very fickle. Our whole existence is very fickle. We are just very small and insignificant in this whole creation. So let's try to see what we are supposed to do, in this life. Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Shrotavyah Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Bhayam. So this says, O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the personality of Godhead, who is the super soul, the collector and the savior from all miseries, the controller and the savior of savior from all miseries. Right? So this is the thing. So it's mentioned nicely. Shrotavya means to hear, kirtitavyascha, like to glorify, and smartavya, so like to remember. So these three things are mentioned. One, okay, let's see the purport. In the previous verse, Sri Sukadev Goswami has described how the foolish materially attached men are wasting their valuable time in the improvement of material conditions of life by sleeping, indulgence in sex life, developing economic conditions, and maintaining a band of relatives who are to be vanquished in their air of oblivion. So ahara nidra bhayamaituna. So all these four things are mentioned here. So being engaged in all these materialistic activities, the living soul entangles himself in the cycle of the law of fruitive actions. This entails the chain of birth and death in 84 lakh species of life. The aquatics, Jalaja Navalakshani, Stavara Lakshavimshati, Kramayo Rudra Sankyaga. So all these slokas we have seen in the Gita course. The aquatics, the vegetables, the reptiles, the birds, the beasts, and the uncivilized men. And then again the human form, which is the chance of getting chance for getting out of the cycle of fruitive action. So if we get to the lower species of life, then we have to go through the cycle, like trees and reptiles, and then birds, beasts, and uncivilized men, and then the civilized form of human life. So that's the cycle with which we can come to the human form of life. And then again, if we have a good fortune, we will be able to hear about the Supreme Lord, and we will be able to prepare ourselves to go back to the spiritual world, right? Therefore, if one desires freedom from the vicious circle, from this vicious circle, then one must cease to act as a karmi or enjoyer of the results of one's own work, good or bad. One should not do anything either good or bad for his own account, but must execute everything on behalf of the Supreme Lord, the ultimate proprietor of everything that be. So this also we discussed in the Gita course, that we have, we sleep so that we can get up and do some service to the Lord, and we consider the Lord to be the proprietor of our home, and then all the family members to be the part and parcel of the Lord or devotees of the Lord, and then we maintain the family in that way. So then, that is a very good way of looking at the thing, right? So we should do everything with the Supreme Lord as the center, right? So this process of doing work is recommended in Bhagavad Gita 9:27 also, where instruction is given for working on the Lord's account. Therefore, one should first of all hear about the Lord. When one has perfectly and scrutinizingly heard, one must glorify his acts and deeds, and thus it will become possible to remember constantly the transcendental nature of the Lord. Hearing about and glorifying the Lord are uh, identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord, and by so doing, one will always be in association of the Lord. So this is mentioned that Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Suddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvam Nama Namina. So that means the Lord is not different from the Lord's name. Abhinnatvam, Nama and Namina. So like the name and the person who holds that name. So these two things are non-different in case of whom? Nama Chintamani Krishna. So the name of the Supreme Lord Krishna is Chintamani. No, it is like really very powerful entity, and then it is non-different from the Lord. So just by hearing about the name of the Lord or the pastimes of the Lord or the scripture that is connected to the Lord, we are getting in direct touch with the Supreme Lord, right? So this brings freedom from all sorts of fear. Bhayam dhutiyad abhiniveshatashat ishat apetasya viparyayo smritihi yanmayayato buddha abhajetam bhakteka isham guru devatatma. So this mentions bhayam dhutiyad abhiniveshatashat. So like when we get fear, when we are not able to perceive the Lord in every aspect, in every sphere of life, then naturally fear sets in, right? So that's the meaning of this thing. So this brings fear. So if somebody is like doing if somebody is always in the association of the Lord, then it is very good. Otherwise, that actually brings in no fear. So here we see, if we remember the Lord, this brings freedom from all sorts of fear, right? The Lord is a super soul, Paramatma, present in the hearts of all living beings, and thus by the above hearing and glorifying process, the Lord invites the association of all his creation. This process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and it will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. So this is very, very auspicious. Punya Shravana Kirtana, it is mentioned. So this is the prime duty of our existence, is to hear about the Supreme Lord. And by the way of hearing, our heart will become purified and we can actually pave the path back to the spiritual world, right? So that's the that's the ultimate purpose. Let's continue reading the purport. I think it's going to get over. Okay. There are many classes of human beings: the fruitive workers, emphoric philosophers, the mystic yogis, and ultimately the unalloyed devotees. For all of them, one and the same process is applicable for achieving the desired success. Everyone wants to be free from all kinds of fear, and everyone wants the fullest extent of happiness in life. The perfect process for achieving this here and now is recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is uttered by the great authority as Srila Sukadeva Goswami. By hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all persons' activities becomes molded into spiritual activities, and thus all conceptions of material miseries become completely vanquished. Okay. So any questions are there? Maybe you can put it in 1 or 2 minutes in this chat box. Otherwise, we will end for today. Okay. Okay. Sukadeva Goswami and Shuka Muni. Yeah, they are the same. Shuka Muni is the same. He is the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Okay. So we will. It's 3 o'clock. Our scheduled time is over. In tomorrow onwards, if anybody wants to put any questions, they can put it a little in advance itself, and then we can actually answer them. So with this, now we will stop today's session, and then we will meet again tomorrow. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.